Andrew in Florida, who says that Armin failed to debunk Mohammed Hijab's slippery slope argument about incest. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Greetings, gentlemen.
So you say that Armin failed to debunk the slippery slope argument?
Yeah. Because
so what's the argument, and how did Armin fail to debunk it?
Yeah, there's a figure called Muhammad Hijab, and Armin was responding to him, and Muhammad Hijab was saying, okay, if you allow LGBT and sexual promiscuity to run rampant without restrictions, then basically you're allowing for incest, because the atheist argument is if it doesn't cause harm, then it's okay. So if it doesn't cause harm, then it allows for incest, because you can have incest without causing harm, just don't have a baby. So, and then that was basically.
What was my argument?
Oh no. And then I remember Armin saying, well, no, because incest has the potential to cause harm. So incest would not be allowed in this atheist society, secular humanist society. But with that reasoning, like, just regular sex can cause harm, because there's STDs, there's emotional abuse in relationships. So I don't see how Armin really debunked that slippery slope. Regular natural relationships can cause harm too. So why wouldn't incest be allowed if it doesn't cause harm?
It's not about just causing harm. It's about how likely it is that they cause harm, correct? And also, do you remember what harm? So, for example, let's say we have incest without the possibility of children being born, right? For example, between two adult sisters, right? So what is the harm that I introduced? Because we try to remove all the potential harms, right? So usually when people think about why, if we are trying to look at the harm principle and not allow something because it's harmful to the individuals or society, that's because we don't look at the disgust factor, we don't look at revelation, we don't look at religion, we don't look at tradition. We're just trying to reduce harm. When it comes to LGBT, the harm, there's not that much harm. We're actually introducing a lot of harm if we ban LGBT relationships, and we're not removing, by allowing it, there's not that much harm that you could show us that will make sense for us to ban LGBT relationships. When it comes to incest, people say the first thing that people comes to their mind is children, genetical, diseases and stuff like that. And people then go like, okay, what about if we incest between two adult sisters or two adult brothers? They can't have children. And then what is the harm that I introduce in that discussion? What is the harm that I introduce as something that the reason why we don't allow incest? The harm that will make us want to avoid incest without even the possibility of having children? You watched the argument. What was the harm? Do you know my argument?
The harm I saw was that possibly children, from what I remember, that you can cause children and inbreeding, so it will be harmful because the children will come out with severe problems.
How could two sisters have children?
Oh, right, two sisters cannot have children.
Right. So that was not the only harm that I touched on. If you actually watched the debate, the discussion that I had, I didn't say just children.
Okay.
There was something else that I introduced.
Okay. I don't.
What was it? Do you know? Okay, so
I don't remember.
So you don't. So you're saying. So you say I failed, but you don't know what I. What I even said. So how could you know that I failed if you don't know what I even said?
Good point.
Okay. Well, maybe I failed. Maybe I did fail, but now I will tell you. Maybe now you can tell me where I failed. I introduced this idea of power dynamics, right? If we allow incest, there's this thing called power dynamics. The reason why we don't allow incest, even when there are no children involved, is the same reason why we don't allow sexual relationship between employers and employees in some situations, or university professors and their students, right? Because we understand that in this environment, because we don't just want consent, we want informed consent that is not being done under pressure. And there are certain situations that you could find exceptions are like, hey, well, this was okay, this was okay. Yes, but we come up with general rules because on average, it avoids more harm than good. So here's the thing. There's a thing called a rule utilitarianism, and there's act utilitarianism. Act utilitarianism is really hard to put in place because we don't have, this calculators that is constantly measuring harm and benefit with every single thing that we're doing. It's impossible to do act utilitarianism. So instead of doing act utilitarianism where we're acting like calculators that is constantly trying to figure out what the harm and benefits for every single thing every single decision that we're making, we came up with this concept called rule utilitarianism. We come up with these rules that on average, if we follow, they produce more benefits than harm. Like if we, even if you could find exceptions that's not the case, we follow them just because it will be very impractical if we wanted to evaluate this every single time. And the example that I come up with is, for example, crossing a red light. So is it true that like at 2 a.m. in the morning, for example, if there's a red light and there you see not a single car in the street, like you can see 2 miles, there's no cars coming. Is it true in this specific situation that if you cross the red light, there is no harm in crossing the red light because there's no way that an accident could happen? Yes, this is a situation where if you cross the red light, it's okay, there's no harm. But given that we can find situations like this, would it make sense for us to say, make the rule, don't cross the red light, except? No, we should not have that rule. That's a very dangerous thing to add. The rule should be just don't cross red lights. Because if you add that except part, you're opening the door to a lot of accidents. So this, when it comes to rule utilitarianism, again, this is not the world of atheists. This has nothing to do with atheism. This is rule utilitarianism, right? So atheists could have really bad moral systems as well. Okay, so this is not something that you want to like. I'm just only endorsing. This is something beyond atheism. I'm just endorsing this moral system, which is rule utilitarianism, right? So we could, like, when it comes to incest, we figured out that the misuse, if we allow this, the potential for harm is so high, unlike LGBT, that it's better to just generally say, let's not do this. Right? Even if you could find very specific exceptions, that it would be okay. It's just too much potential for harm. But you can't find that in LGBT relationships. That's why the comparison doesn't make any sense. Andrew?
You have a percentage. Yeah, because with sodomy, the chances for STDs are much higher, according to some studies. But that doesn't mean you can't do sodomy safely. You can still do sodomy safely. Do you have a percentage of how much harm would be caused by incest compared to sodomy? Or would you guys disagree that the STDs are...
Well, I don't see how you're responding to anything that Armin just said. Right? I think you're just waiting for your turn to speak. Can you repeat for us in your own words what you think Armin just said?
Yes, what Armin said was, the potential for harm is so great that we shouldn't allow any exceptions for incest. But even though there might be some harm in heterosexual and homosexual relationships, the harm is nowhere near as great.
Right, but you understand you're talking about a different harm than what Armin is talking about. You're talking about the transmission of disease, which is something that we know how to prevent, and we can, and any type of relationship where sex is involved. But one of the harms that he's talking about very specifically is an emotional harm that caused by the two people. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, Armin.
Oh, that makes sense. But can you give us an example?
Did I steel man Armin properly?
I would say no, because a harm caused by disease is not the same as the types of harm that can come from emotional harm and harm to society from two people who become so. And this, you can see this in dogs. That's why you don't normally adopt a brother and sister dog together, is because, or brother, sister, doesn't matter. You don't adopt siblings together, is because they can develop such a strong bond that they become completely they start to ignore all of their bonds, to include that to their owner, and they can become dangerous to humans and other dogs around them in that particular, because their bond is so strong to the excess of everything else. And that is a completely different harm than disease.
So let me tell you, Andrew, why there's a potential for harm in one of them more than the other one, right? So you also acknowledge that two adult, like LGBT members, for them to, there are things that they could do that will make their sexual relationship healthy without disease. Both of them can do that. But that happens because both of them are adults, and both of them are free agents, and both of them are not being put under any pressure. Like, they're not in a situation where they're making decisions that they're doing things that may not accurately reflect what they really want. Okay, so when it comes to incest, when we say power dynamics, right, that means that is not the case anymore. So even with LGBT, like let's say two gay men, for example, if we see like there is a power dynamic issue and one of them is pressuring the other one, then we would have an issue with this, like, or one of them is in a position that can pressure the other one to be in a sexual relationship that they don't want. Then we're not okay with that, whether it's straight or gay or whatever or anything else. So when it comes to incest, because brothers and sisters, or fathers and their children, or mothers and their children, there's a power difference, right? Then the ability to abuse, the potential for that for one party to take advantage of the other one is a lot higher. We would be against that within gay relationships as well, or straight relations as well. But the gay relationships or straight relationships between adults is not inherently like that all the time, but incest is potentially like that most of the time. You have to find very, very special, unique cases. Like, I could only find of a very rare, weird, exception that would have none of this. But in 99% of the situation, it will have that element. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the potential for harm is greater among incestual relationships, even if you try to mitigate those harmful factors, right? Is that
right? Yeah, because the type of consent is being proven to be very important, right? So do you understand why we care so much about power dynamics? This is why we talk about informed consent. We don't just say consent. We say informed consent, and consent in a way that you're not under influence, that you're not under pressure. This, when it comes to sexual relationship, it has been proven that this is the thing that we need to care about the most: the consent and the type of consent. And that's why we're so picky about power dynamics. And incest has that issue with it. That's why we're okay with LGBT, because if consent is demonstrated from all parties, we're okay with it. But incest is really hard for you to demonstrate that, given the power dynamics.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not for abuse either, so I agree with that. I'm not for manipulative any type of sexual behavior in that manner.
Awesome.
And you understand how that's different, and how it can't be mitigated through the use of a prophylactic like you can with disease, or with vaccines like you can with disease, right? This is not something we have a way to prevent medically like we do with disease, which is why you weren't steel manning the position. Do you see how that's different?
I do see how they're different. One is more harmful and cannot be mitigated as much as STDs. But you guys do agree that the STDs are more prevalent among LGBT, but we can mitigate that.
I don't know that it is true to say that the LGBTQI community has more STDs than the hetero community. I'm unaware of anything that actually says that. So no, I neither agree nor disagree with that statement, but I would challenge that it's true, just because people are people, and I don't know that there's, LGBTQI, in order for that to be true, LGBTQIA community would have to be having more sex than the heterosexual community, and I don't know that that's true.
Jim, I've read that it's true because society has made that a taboo. right? Because it's a type of sex that is a taboo and is like historically has been done more underground, and because you have to hide it from society, you might not be exposed to the safe ways of doing it. That's one of the reasons I've read that you might have more disease in the community. But as we progress and it's become, it becomes less of a taboo, then it should become more equal to other types of sex. That's what I've read. I don't know how accurate that is, but that might be the reason.
Yeah, and I like I said, I haven't read that. And those social pressures to not report and self-report kind of make sense. But given that all reporting on STDs is confidential, and having worked on a government piece of software to actually track that, it is confidential for that. It's not even tracked in the same system as other diseases. So yeah, and again, just because that is true doesn't mean that the perception isn't there. But I again, I don't know. So, and I don't know what that has to do with Armin being wrong anyway, because apparently he wasn't. You just didn't understand. You just didn't know what the entire argument was, right?
Yeah, and also, Andrew, do you agree that if I have, let's say, for example, straight sexual relationship was causing more disease than a gay sexual relationship, right? Let's say that was the case. Like, just we lived in a world that was the case, and I'm straight. Okay, I'm not gonna go have gay sex. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go gay sex just because straight, and I'm not gonna not have sex. That's not an option at all. And I'm not gonna have gay sex, even though straight sex will have somewhat more diseases associated with it. I would just be extra careful because the not having sex would not be an option, and having gay sex would not be an option. So I just will have to go educate myself. So I don't know why people use this disease argument against gay sex, given that they themselves would not stop having sex if that was true about the type of sex that they liked, given that you could easily find ways around it.
I agree. They would continue to engage in sexual relations because the point of this call and those other examples is simply to test the harm principle, because I've heard the harm principle thrown around a lot with atheism, and I think it's a little bit too simplistic. If it causes harm, therefore it's immoral. I agree with that sentiment, but it just feels too simplistic.
Okay.
Which part is too simplistic? Okay,
I didn't understand why it's too simplistic either. Harm seem, I don't disagree with harm being incorrect. I think happiness is a better measurement than harm, because harm is harder to define. But yeah, but the original point of your call is to attempt to debunk the slippery slope argument against incest that you thought Armin had not done, and apparently he has. So, do you agree with that? Have I?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Also, Andrew, just one last thing before. First of all, Andrew, this was great. Like, you are so willing to change your opinions. That's very nice to see always. But also, I just want to suggest that when we're talking about reducing harm, we should also consider not having sex as a harm. Okay, like that should be part of the calculation. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
In many cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Great phone call. Please call back again when you got something else you want to talk about.